If we were to guess, which of the reindeer do you think would be the biggest buck? So you got Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Donner.
I think it's always
Cupid.
been Blitzen.
Blitzen? Why do you think Blitzen?
I don't know. He just sounds like a bad dude.
Yeah, I mean,
Old Blitzen.
He sounds.
It's not Prancer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably not.
Hey, Prancer.
Prancer, yeah.
I just don't see Prancer like
or Dancer probably.
Yeah,
Dancer and Prancer, they're probably not the.
They're definitely on Broadway somewhere.
Let's go!
Chris and Chris, what's up, boys?
Hey, Chris Crow.
Chris
Hey,
Square.
Chris.
Hey, Chris, love what you're doing with the show.
I freaking love the
Stuff's
show.
awesome.
God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
This is the all-new Brackett Show. Brackett Show. And now, here's Chris Brackett.
You couldn't hear my elk call, man, but I was using this as a bugle tube. Those of you listening, I'm doing that with my new little book. It's my little festive Christmas book. It's green. I got rid of my other book. This is the Christmas episode, Christmas special. I don't know how special it is. We have trees though.
We do have some trees. There's some ornaments kind of hidden back there and stuff, and yeah. So I mean, it's
festive?
special. It's special because you decided to listen, right? So if you're listening,
Christmas.
you're what makes it special. So yeah, no, I'm excited. It's been a long season, but then like now the end of the year coming up.
You can't beat a man that won't quit, and I am not.
Going.
I am not going to quit. I'm
Keeps
grinding
going
it out.
and going.
Yeah, and it feels like spring out there today.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. Like,
Yep.
I mean, because it was really cold, and then over the weekend and stuff, and then it just warmed up and everything melted. And
Well, I had a lot of deer starting to crush the beans, so it looked like a desert out in my bean fields. Everything was still standing. Didn't look like deer or hogs had been in it. Like normally, this time of year, it looks like a pack of hogs, or what would they call hogs? A group of hogs?
What do they call it? I don't know if they call them a pack, but we can call them that.
Let's say a pack of hogs. It looked like a pack of hogs got loose in my
of hogs.
loose in my beans, and normally it's a big mud hole, and the beans are half gone, and you're waiting to see if you have enough beans to go into late winter and keep the deer healthy. Listen, I have more food on my farm than I have ever had in my life. And I still have deer eating in the beans, but none of them are in a hurry. The only 2 days that I saw deer really crushing the standing beans was those super, super cold days that we had last week. And then all of a sudden it warmed up. I still had deer going to the beans, but then they weren't like in a hurry. The healthiest deer I've ever seen in my life in December, here it is Christmas, and they're walking around fat and sassy, 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 4-year-old bucks. I don't know where the 5 and 6-year-olds are. I'm hoping that they're just fat and sassy, and they're scared of getting shot, and they're just hanging out in ditches. They're like rabbits. But I have outsmarted every deer on my farm that lives on me.
FYI, it's a drift or drove of hogs.
A drove of hogs or a drift of hogs?
Yeah, that's what the internet says.
Okay.
And the internet's never wrong.
I learned something new.
Yeah, I had to look that up.
So I'm hoping that we get a drove of hogs, like big fat hogs, and they're just big does and big bucks headed to the soybeans in the future. Now, what we've had going on is an unseasonably warm, very mild fall and winter. We've discussed it a million times. Now, I have theories on a couple things that are going on in the woods. You know about the green leaves that I talk about all the time, the invasive plants. They're finally down. I have it wrote right here in the green leaves are finally down.
Nice.
Time to talk about it. So now is the time that the first thing you'll watch these bigger bucks do, especially the 2, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, they'll be fighting in the clover plots. And the clover plots are really, really on fire right now. And it's just something like I talk about frost seeding. We just had a Christmas special where you could get, like 15% off some white gold products and that, and some Clover Rush to get ready for frost seeding. I had a bunch of people like my friend Jerry and some folks that are friends that listen to the show that they ordered a lot of Clover Rush to get ahead of the game, and even some guys down south that are like, hey, when do I frost seed? So if you're listening to this and you're going to frost seed some white gold Clover Rush, like I have right here, you're wanting to buy that now, and you're wanting to just keep this package in the garage or whatever, keep it away from the mice, or keep it cool, keep it out of moisture, and then you're ready to go come January and February. You can start putting down this clover into your fall plots and into your existing clover plots. There's no reason that if you used Real World or if you used Antler King or something in the past that has clover in it, just go over it with some Clover Rush, something I can guarantee that's a very, very good clover with big clovers, and then everybody's frost seeding. So that's some stuff we've been paying attention to. Those deer are on it right now in December. Normally I watch them really early in the season be on clover, or early in December, I should say. But right now, Christmas, these deer are crushing the clover. In middle of the day, noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. This week will be a really good, we still got a couple deer left on the lease that we want to take out. There's a lot of 8-pointers, so I may be taking a friend or maybe taking my wife or one of the nephews out. I think I'm going to go on a 8-pointer mission at the lease and try to get a mature deer down that's 8 points. We just have an abundancy of 8-pointers, and I think that may bring up a question. My friend said he was going to call this week about 8-pointers, and if their name's Chris, so we'll have to earmark that for later. But he was talking about, are 8-pointers always 8-pointers? And that is just not true. Sometimes they get flyers and kickers, and sometimes on years like this year where they're just not growing real big, they that 4, G1, G2, G3, G4, that fourth point on the main beam sometimes just doesn't grow because of lack of water and lack of, sustenance and things in the growing period for the antler. And then that turns him into now a 10-point and grows a G4. On years like this year where we had a drought, their antler growing just kind of ceases a little bit before he starts growing that 4. So sometimes you'll have a bump, sometimes you won't have anything, but an 8-pointer is not always an 8-pointer. But you can shoot an 8-pointer over a 10-pointer if they're the same age class and you wanted to take a deer out. You're going to take out the 8-pointer because that 10-pointer is going to score. A lot of times what's happening is a 10-pointer will score higher at a younger age, and so they're being high-graded and killed quite often. And that's what happens in a lot of management situations where people aren't really managing, but they think they're doing good. And so that's what's happening out there. Clover, as the Orange Army leaves the woods and the gun seasons are over. I want to talk about that. You've watched the green autumn olive, Russian olive, and a lot of people call them honeysuckle. All these leaves with the red berries, all these things are fallen, and now the deer don't have a lot to eat in the woods, and now they're headed to the food plots.
Yep.
And this is when I probably am more confident about my plan. I don't deviate from my plan. You hear it quite often, how I set up a plan, whether it be for a client or myself, and I am very, very strict to that plan of the season and how I just start dialing in food sources, strict on my winds, concentrate on some of my blinds. If I get a foggy warm-up morning, sometimes I'll slip around the edge of the timber and get the deer going back to bed, just like I did the other morning. I had the big I think he's a 3 or 4 I think he's a 4-year-old, but he might be a 3-year-old. He's got a double beam. Had another 8-pointer, and then I had a deer that had shed, and all 3 of these deer I had passed up, 4 times, I think, in 5 days. I had seen them that much and that close to me, and these are 3 and 4-year-old deer. These are beautiful deer, but the biggest ones aren't living on me right now. And so I just feel like I'm doing everything right, and I'm passing all these deer, and I'm doing it over and over, so they don't know I'm in the game. But I'm waiting for that older deer to show up and live on me and give me a chance at playing the game. I really feel like this whole season I haven't had a chance at the bigger, older deer. I had the one that lived in the middle of my property, and I walked in there on the first night and killed him.
Yeah.
Super easy. And then the rest of it's been playing cat and mouse with a bunch of younger deer. And I am still more hopeful now than ever to concentrate on my white gold food plots, the gold fever and the Klondike, and then my corn, standing corn, and then lots of standing beans. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It is the most wonderful time of the year. I was wondering, how long have you had, like you were talking about the property that you're on.
Yeah.
How long have you had that now?
Well, let's see. 7 years I've had a plan in place. So my wife and I started dating again. That's a long drawn out saga.
Yeah.
But
you shared some of that in the past.
Yep. And so when we decided that this was going to be the last time we dated and we were getting married was about 7 years ago. And once that happened, we decided we're going to get married and we're going to start, living out our dreams. So it's never too late to get your dreams, people. So we decided that we were going to make this our homestead, that we were going to put our time and effort into here. And so for 7 years, we have been growing deer. And when I say growing deer, we decided 7 years ago that we weren't going to shoot a deer off the property for a couple of years. And every year I left 3 acres of standing beans, and I left it alone, and I let those deer grow up on that hard crop and on those clover plots. And we spent 5 years not taking a deer off of it.
Okay.
And so 7 years, but 5 years of that was doing nothing but like what Lee and Tiffany do. They'll buy a farm, them and Tom Rolls or whatever, and they're investors. They'll buy a farm. I learned this from them, Lee, years ago. And I look up to him when it comes to whitetails and learning some of that stuff. They will buy a farm. They will put the food to it, and they will let that farm soak and just be a whitetail wilderness wonderland. A haven, and start bringing out the genetics, start bringing out what the deer want to do. And I'm a let the deer do what they want to do kind of guy, and then capitalize on that really, kind of organic opportunity, not fences, not manipulated through trees being down and pinching them through different stuff. Like I want to create the best that the land has to offer, and then still outsmart them on my terms and let them do their thing. And that that was my dream.
Yeah. I kind of wonder, because like you're only now over the last less than a handful of years seeing the fruits of that labor, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it's still relatively.
It was an
early on.
experiment to get me to where I'm at now. So when people hire me as a consultant, they go like, "Well, how can I believe this happened?" I'm like, "Well, I took a really hard hunted area, and I turned my wife's dream of keeping her farm she grew up on, 60 acres, into 100 acres by acquiring the right pieces around it, adding to it, putting a pond on it, and then wrapping my dreams." I could have bought a different piece of property, but in this case, I want to make my wife's dreams come true. So I wrapped my dreams around it and created the best opportunity at 100 acres to do really high-end kind of land management, whitetail growing, whitetail experiments, if you will, from hinge cutting to TSI to planting 5,500 pines in switchgrass in my bottoms, having it be dirty switch, and then monoculture type switchgrass, and then big blue, little blue, miscanthus. There's 40,000 miscanthus plants, and then having like, okay, this is enlist beans, these are Roundup Ready beans, and this is clover, and then here's some alfalfa, and then here, like everything that you can imagine that a whitetail guy goes into, that's what I put on this farm. And then now over these 7 or 8 years on this experimental 100 acres that I am able to monitor so tightly with heavy hunting pressure around it. Can I grow Boone and Crockett whitetails on 100 acres? The answer is absolutely yes. But it takes some discipline. It takes the property laying the right way. The number one question I get from people that want a consult when boots on the ground is, okay, if this isn't the farm that I can grow and hit these expectations for my deer hunting career and life, and my expectations of this is how I want to win, you need to tell me, because I need to sell this farm and get something else. And that's the first thing that I told Kirk when he first hired me to look at his first property. He said, tell me if this isn't the property for me to come in from out of state and hunt it hard for 10 days, 14 days. And I went, this isn't the property for you for 7 to 10 days. We got to sell it and get you another farm. And the reason is because the access wasn't great for him to invade the property, pull all the cameras that didn't have cell reception, and then hunt all over it and, keep those deer fresh in those areas that they didn't feel human intrusion. And that's a lot of what goes into it. So your question was how long, and I just took 5 years, hunted other places, and studied these whitetails, and I noticed that the deer that were on it when we bought the farm were really good deer, but those deer really wanted to leave that farm a lot. They wanted to go other places. They didn't grow up with food. They didn't know that they had everything they needed on that little spot, so they left. And then as the years progressed, I realized that deer that were born there or found that as a safe haven lived there from October 1 and stayed there all year and then dropped their antlers there or close by. And it was really intriguing to say I could do that on 100 acres. And then I used the 100 acres to kind of compare it to like some of the consulting farms that I have that I'm going to. Some of them are 35 acres. Another one that we're looking at right now for up in, I think it's Wisconsin, is 90 acres. You got to get that contract signed here in the next couple of days, but headed there. These are 90 acres, and the guy sends me the mapping as I look at it to make sure I can determine that I can help them. And, the farm's kind of reversed. The food's out to the west and the timber's back here to the east. And I've got to figure out and explain to them, realize that this farm is telling me that this is a better morning farm than evening. And the reason why is because he has to kind of backdoor, kind of hunt these transition areas in the timber coming back from the food that's out west. That's okay. And he has to hunt the northern side and the southern side because of how that wind will blow out the top and blow out the bottom. And then it's all about strategy. And, people like Ryan from Michigan and the other guys from Michigan that are my clients, these guys are, the conversation yesterday when I had with Ryan was like, hey, I've got a piece of property by you coming up for sale. I just wanted to let you know about it. It's going to be a pocket listing. It's not, I don't bet it doesn't even hit the market, but I have it for sale. And as we're talking about this, it's over by Fairview, Illinois. It's a 240 something acres. I mean, we're looking probably for new owners on that and, or new buyers on that. Herman Brothers Realty. I'm a broker for them in Illinois. And we're in the middle of all that. And he said, dude, I can't tell you how big a deal it is for me to hire you and you convince me to pull off the X and all, and my partner and all the boys that are hunting and all the guys that are hunting. And I pulled them all off the X's and I left these areas alone. And I came up with this big strategy for, hundreds of acres. And then they got this other farm that we didn't really do a lot to. We just mainly concentrated on this big farm. It was like 400 acres. The level of animals that they are passing in Illinois are out of this planet. I mean, big deer. And they've killed some big deer. But what they've realized is by pulling off the X, they can go there and hunt more readily with no disturbance, and they're able to be sneakier, getting around and have more enjoyable hunts. And we talked to each other yesterday, and he said, how do we tell the world that they need to hire you for you to come to their property? You will save them so many years of their hunting career just by pulling them off the X, and the deer walk around and they feel like they're in a park, and we get to enjoy them more. And now we have confidence that if we pass this deer, he's going to stay on us. He's going to get bigger. So the level of deer that they're passing on year one and that they're growing for next year it's mind blowing. It is truly dream work stuff. And our discussion was he's like, how do you market to the world and tell them what you really do? He said, I tell all my friends that they need to hire you. But what he's saying is he doesn't know how to explain taking the pressure off of these deer, my style of hunting, without fences, without manipulating, these tree snafus that the deer have to, I set the things up to let deer do deer stuff, and then I bring them to it. So I'm looking for 20 to 30 clients a year to help get to this next level. And then my career and my life's great. And what he's saying is, man, I don't know how you tell people the level that you're operating at, but we need to figure out how to educate people and for them to see it. And I go, well, it may be, Chris, that you and I, when we go kind of call some of these guys, because like Ryan and them, they have questions like, what do we do now? Like a revisit from last year's consult, and like, hey, here's what we saw. What do we do? I don't know if we don't take a camera and make like a YouTube piece or whatever that is just telling these stories that these guys have. That way it's not coming from my mouth hard selling. You know me, like I don't want to hard sell, but I want to book my schedule up for 20 people, 30 people a year that I get to go visit their farms and coach them through the year. That's my goal in life. But how do we create some marketing piece that doesn't sound like we're overselling it and it's not a hard sell? Like that's where Ryan is. Like, how do we educate them? And I said, well, part of it's the show and talking about it, but people hear blah, blah, blah all the time. But I think, even this full moon, Christmas Santa full moon walk that we had, not too long ago by the last show, right before the last show on the 15th, so many people sent me messages that went, there's no way I would have hunted in front of that full moon on Friday and Saturday and even Sunday if I didn't listen to the podcast. I would not have hunted. Now, I would have watched the trail cameras, but I would not have hunted those days and took off work. And they got one guy killed 190-something inch mega giant. And these guys are killing these big bucks, and they're sending me messages, and it's like, well, I could screenshot that and promote it on my social media, but again, I wrestle with that. I would rather. It's really weird. Have you me more better now, Chris? You know me more better now.
Most best now.
Most best. And how do we put somebody over the fence on should they hire me or should they hire another guy?
That's a great question. I think we're still kind of figuring that out. I will say, I think that some people don't understand that the show, like, especially from your perspective, like, is completely, like, you have no idea what's coming, and the things that people call and they ask and the things that they say, like, none of that is scripted. So, like, if people are saying nice things, like, honestly, sometimes I have to cut some of that out because it's so long. That's all real. Like, people are not just making that up. And so I even see comments sometimes, like on the YouTube, like on our channel, where like, oh, this seems like it's, like they planned it or whatever. Like, no, like people are calling because they're having real experiences, and it's, the advice that you're giving works. And I'm just a nice guy. I don't provide much advice here.
Hey, I just pay you with pie. I just have the fans of the show sell pie.
Yeah. But so, I mean, I think that's a starting point, and we can kind of see from there, but what I would say to those who are listening and are watching, like, the comments that you're hearing from people, the testimonials, those are all real. And Chris has been doing this far before we've been doing the show, but I think it's allowed more people throughout the country to kind of have a better idea of, like, oh, there's, Chris is a great hunter, but more than that, we're really talking about developing land and making sure that you're doing what you can to set yourself up best. And so I think that's where this has been a little different than, say, like your shows back in the day, where you were doing more of showing your skill and hunting.
More entertaining people.
And this is obviously, hopefully still entertaining. You, the listener, can let us know, but like, that's the sense I've got. People have enjoyed it, but they've also learned a lot. And so many people are like, it's the best show, it's the best podcast out there, best hunting show. Like, if people are listening, if people are watching, they love it. There's people who haven't yet, just helping. Yeah.
Our goal is to help.
For sure.
My friend Chris Wing, he said he called. I
think we got him.
Yeah, Michigan guy. Chris. He was very nervous to call, and I said, listen, there is a lot of people that have the same questions as you. A lot of people haven't had the unfortunate opportunity to become my friend through being a client. And I mean that funny because, Chris was just a guy that, shout out to Rod Shepard down with Whitetail Property Guys or whatever, and he sells property. And he was like, Chris, if I owned a piece of ground, this is Chris Wing, another Chris, if I
So
owned
many Chris's.
if I owned a piece of property, I would call Brackett and I would have him come to your farm. And Chris Wing's like, I'm in, and I'm like, this is the price. He's like, that's it. Okay, get over here. And so we met for Mexican. We hung out. We walked his property. I found out his goals, what he was looking at, and he's like, so you coach me all year? Yep, I coach you all year. We're going to transform your farm. I'm going to help liaison, and communicate with the farmers and what to get and what equipment to get and whatever. And the first year is a big overhaul for a lot of guys. And Chris just jumped off that bridge and went all in. We got the Miscanthus in. His Miscanthus is huge, and it is beautiful for first year. Beans, he isn't tagged out, but he killed a big buck. But he's going to see so many deer late season that it's going to be incredible. But he's already hooked. Like, what do we do next? And Chris Wing's one of those guys where he was talking about in our phone call that I said, hey, you should just call in. I know you're nervous, but call in, ask some questions. And, there's a lot of people listening that are on the fence about, should they book me? Should they not book me? Why should they, this? I said, call in and leave a message for people. And, producer Chris will put it on and just let it roll. And he goes, before you go, I can't wait to hear your answers to the question. But before you go, he said, I need you to be very vulnerable today. This was this morning. Very vulnerable today. And say to the listeners and the people that love you out there and the people that are listening and they want to continue to hear this. Because we're on episode 24. We only got one more episode we're filming today. This is Christmas and then New Year's episode. But he said, you and Chris are working so hard giving this, and this production is expensive, and you guys want to do a good job, and you want to do that. And he said, I need you to be very vulnerable today, and you need to talk to a whole bunch of people out there that are like me. I own a business. I own a very good business that does good work, that has a lot of hunters and a lot of people. And he said, I would be happy, and there are many people out there like me that have learned so much from listening to this show that you need to tell them how to somehow monetarily support the show. And he said, I'll be happy to put in $5,000, and you need to have like this low benchmark to where, yes, somebody could title sponsor the show, but and somebody commercial sponsor the show. He said, but you need to have something, and you need to go ahead and tell people you will continue doing this, but realize that I'm putting my money up. That's what he's saying. Chris, you're putting your money up and your heart on the line and your whatever because you believe in this and you believe in helping people. And you need to tell people like me that are listening, this is Chris saying this, that for like $5,000, they can just pretty much say you can get spots on the website, you can get social media presence. We'll give you shout outs on the podcast, but companies like his that are successful and are able to get a little bit of advertising for just a nice amount, they need to know that they can do that and that they're helping people. Because not only is this show where we're witnessing and whatever, hopefully we're helping men and helping people too. And he put on my heart today to go be vulnerable and tell people that they can monetarily support if
and
they
we
have
need
a
your
company,
help.
and that we need your help.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't that me asking for money? And he's like, buddy, it's business, and you are putting your heart on the line, and you are putting your knowledge out there, and you're not asking for much. So yes, we hope companies like Beast from the Bomars and David and Greg, that those guys are like, hey, we want to support the show, and I don't know, like companies like Hunting Day or, shout out to Lowdown and whatever, like and White Gold and Cantrell Taxidermy and things like that. Like these guys are like, hey man, we are seeing business increase all over. And I mean, that's what funds the show. And we honestly, guys, one of the reasons Chris Wings tell me to do this is because we have not actively gone out there and produced our numbers to go get commercial sponsors and figure out how this whole thing works. So those guys that are out there going, how does somebody start a podcast? You have to make decisions in your life on where you want to put it. and where you want to put what we're doing, what your money, what you're doing, and how you want to start things. And I literally took money out of my life and said, I want to invest in something cool with another Christian man and do something and use his talents and my talents and come together. And we know that God will provide monetary, stable, great lives in that sacrifice going forward in this endeavor. And it's been so successful. What did you send me the other day? 100,000 Spotify downloads?
In the last 30 days, we've had over 100,000 impressions of people checking out the podcast.
So thank you so
Spotify.
much. That's just Spotify.
Over the last
And then
month.
YouTube, I think there was 856,000 views. Almost 1 million.
Yeah.
Close enough for 1 million
awesome.
for me.
Yeah.
And so that's been in the last year. And then on this show has been hundreds of thousands, right? And then we made it to the top 10 or top 12? Top 12.
We were number 6 in Canada, and we were number, was it 12 or in the US for like a wilderness podcast, like a outdoor podcast. So.
Yeah. And then sports, we made the top 200.
Yeah, which is cool.
Which is fun.
Like
so all those numbers are fun. We are figuring out how to package them in a lot of spaces out there where people are having business meetings and figuring out how do we get our product out there? How do we track, how do we track our Nativity Star Roast from Hunting Day Coffee? Like, how do we track that, and how do we do this? And so we are in the middle of it. We don't know everything, but we're in the middle of it. Chris and his wife are breaking down numbers and things like that. And so what did Travis from German Bliss say? What's it called instead of a media kit nowadays? It's called a what?
A pitch deck. You're talking about a pitch deck?
Pitch deck.
Yeah.
And a pitch deck is what? A
pitch deck is basically
where all your numbers are?
Kind of. Yeah, it's just like a presentation. Yeah, this is getting very like granular and inside the
it's fun.
If you're pulling the curtain back. So a pitch deck is basically within kind of the media industry and advertising industry is you're explaining why someone would want to work with you, and it's like basically like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yep.
But it'll give kind of what our strategy is, what our numbers say, what a partnership could look like, why you'd want to partner with us, all that sort of stuff. That's what a pitch deck is.
Well, I love that because one of the number one questions I get, and after the Hunting Day Coffee wake-up call, because of course I'm already woke up, but I've been looking for subjects to talk about today, and one of the subjects, I think in the next 2 episodes, people want to know how to get in the hunting industry and like how the breakdown is. And they're like, why are these goofballs on Outdoor Channel or Sportsman's Channel, or why do they have shows? And I think people have wondered that forever. They watch me run around with the spiky hair and my tattoos and my sideburns and yell booyah and shoot these things out of the air and go, okay, I know why this guy's on TV. But why is this other guy that's boring on television? And I don't think they realize that a lot of the stuff with old-fashioned outdoor television was just bought. You buy the airtime, and then you sell the commercials. And sometimes when you got a big company and your dream is to be an outdoor television celebrity, you can name your show like Hot Shot Jimmy in the Outdoors, and you could make a show and pay a producer and pay a cameraman, and then instead of getting a bunch of free bow, instead of selling sponsorships or ad space, you would just get 20 free bows from a bow company, and you would call that a sponsorship, and then you would sell them to your buddies or do whatever you want, and it was a trade. And I don't think a lot of people understand that we created this from nothing, and people can create something from nothing. But if you're not made to host podcasts, the number one thing I get is like my buddy Chris Wing was like, how do you do this every day and just talk to people? Well, that's because I'm a little nuts. And you're good at producing, and I just sit here and we run it organic, and I talk and answer questions. And this is what I do, whether I'm on the air or not. I just am running a million miles an hour, no holes barred, full metal bracket. And,
if I call you, you're like in mid sentence when you're always going.
Yeah, I'm always going. So I think is a fun subject to talk about is like how this stuff works. And I don't mind talking about pitch decks and how marketing, because I know that we got the numbers. It's really it's really nerve-wracking diving into the numbers. You know me. If I could just live my life and didn't worry about anything, and I just showed up even twice a week and filmed and talked and content and what, I'd be and hunted and and report back. I'd be the happiest guy on the planet, and do my consults and do the speaking engagements. But that's not reality. I have to be an adult and sit with you and talk and go, what do we do? And I don't want to ask them for money, but I know we can help them. And I just hate that part of it. And so, maybe you have to be my agent.
Maybe so. This is a conversation that like we could talk forever about it, and hopefully, thank you for the listener, like for listening to everything that Chris is sharing and what we're talking about. It has been great to be able to do the show, and hopefully we can keep that going with great sponsors like Hunting Day Coffee. I think we'll do the wake up call here in just a second, but I think the last thing that I would say is like, I'm
just blessed to have it successful. So go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what I was going to say.
Yes.
It's like, it's in a field that I know way more. It's so funny how many hunting conversations I've had with people in recent years, within recent days of people that I've known for years.
Yeah.
Where I
you hunt?
They're like, wait, and I was like,
no, I don't hunt.
Yeah, I don't. But I can tell you
so much
land management and strategies and like what are good times to hunt and all this stuff. So it's been neat to see kind of how that's opened up new
conversations and just men, because
yeah.
you're into it. You're into your broing out, man time, iron sharpen iron. So
yeah,
that's a cool way to navigate through this and realize if you come back and go, why are they talking about this? Remember, my friend that started as a client named Chris Wing said, be vulnerable today.
So we're being vulnerable.
And talk about how you want partners and you need these partners to continue doing what you're doing and growing and make it known that this is where we're at and be vulnerable with it. So, Chris, thank you. Chris Wing, thank you. So can we have his question, even though it's long as the wake up call, or do you have something else set up?
Well, I do have something else set up.
Okay, just hit that one.
Yeah, all right.
We'll get to Chris's next.
No, it'll be awesome. Here we go.
Okay.
Wakey.
Brought to you by Hunting Day Coffee. For hunters by hunters.
Hey, Chris. This is Sam from Wisconsin. I have a few questions for you in regards to, I'm seeing a lot of posts online about black deer, albino deer.
Ooh, melanistic and albino.
Black deer or albino deer, everybody thinks like they should be crazy protected and nobody should shoot them or kill them. But isn't technically it a genetic defect?
Mutation.
Are these animals, especially in the Waukesha County area of Wisconsin, there's a lot of albino deer, and they are getting stronger, but they are protected. We could not kill them in Wisconsin.
Is that off like Grumpy Old
So
Man?
I'm just asking, is this a genetic defect, or is it just kind of blown out of proportion with people that are kind of like bleeding hearts in a way, like, oh, you can't kill it, it's a majestic animal because it's all white. That's what I'm asking. Have a good day. I love what you're doing with the show. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. I got one full body mounted at my house.
Oh, yeah?
I killed one in New York in the Seneca Army Depot with a whole bunch of Army guys that invited me there, and I drew a white tag, and I shot one in the Seneca Army Depot. And the reason why the deer are white in the Seneca Army Depot is it's anybody out in that area, it was privately bought years ago, but it is about 90% fenced in. So it's not technically all the way fenced in. But it is governed by its own governing and is privately owned. But at one time, the Army depots across America in World War II, whatever, had created surplus areas with underground bunkers that were all across the nation. I've hunted them in Southern Illinois at Crab Orchard. I've hunted them in Seneca Army Depot. I've hunted them at other places. But these are these big bunkers that stored munitions and equipment and tanks and trucks and all this stuff. Okay. So the Seneca Army Depot was opened up 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year. a lot of people I know that used to work for me used to sneak in there and poach a lot of turkeys and deer. And statute of limitations is way over, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. They used to slip through the fence and go in there and kill all this stuff. And that's actually how I found out about it, was because I went to a place with Michelle Harms when her husband was deployed, and we met a bunch of guys at an archery shop in New York, and they said, hey, just by chance, hey man, do you want to come hunt if we can put in this? And I met, and I went with a group that happened to draw. It was a 1-day hunt. It was like November 16th. I showed up. I met, which ended up to be one of my friends, was a General O'Neill, and I went to his second star general presentation at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. I went to a big thing. This white deer is good luck, because I went and got to meet all these people and these great Army guys, and cool stories came from all of that. But I ended up drawing a tag for a white deer, and so I shot a 10-point white buck, not an albino. So do you know how to tell, Chris, albino from just a white genetic
I don't know for sure, but I know
mutation?
albinos often have like red eyes.
That's the number one key.
Okay.
So in the state of Illinois, as long as a white deer, okay, is running around in Illinois, different than Wisconsin, and it has a brown spot on it, okay? Now, that doesn't mean it rubbed up against your oil pan in your car, but an actual growing brown spot that's not 100% white, you can shoot it in the state of Illinois. It's then considered a white deer, not an albino.
Sure.
So albino deer that are completely white, zero pigment in their bodies and in their eyes and in their hooves and everything else, they're illegal to shoot in Illinois. But if it has one big brown spot, or a brown spot on their face or ears, and their eyes are brown, you can shoot it in the state of Illinois. Okay, in Wisconsin, I believe the law says no white deer, period, which means in the area of Buffalo County, and where did he say? It sounded like it was something straight off of Grumpier Old Men, like
Waukesha.
Waukesha. That's what it's off
I think
of.
that's what he said. I think he said Waukesha. Yeah.
Which I love Wisconsin. Like they're the friendliest people on the planet. So up there in Wisconsin, the white deer has been known for years. Pat Reeve from Driven TV and HS and my friend for the last 25 or 30 years of my life. Pat had got his start by filming white deer that had white velvet and white bodies, and this is all known in the Wisconsin area. But they have all these added stigmas to it, like he was talking about bleeding hearts or this or that or whatever. Is like, don't shoot this, or the white buffalo that Uncle Ted rides on stage, and the Native Americans are like white buffalo and they're sacred and whatever. Listen, at the end of the day, scientifically, they are just a genetic inferior species, inferior genetic mutation animal. The way that a deer will be a white deer but still have brown eyes, which means that's not an albino, is from years of inbreeding, like a grandmother and a grandson in the deer world. Breeding mutations happen, and it's just a form of inbreeding where the animal is healthy, but they just normally, when they're white, don't have the superior genetics that they could possibly have if you had two completely different animal genos, and that they had offspring, right? Two super genetic doe and a buck mate that from two complete different areas. Let's take Wisconsin and Illinois buck. A Wisconsin doe and an Illinois buck had fawns. You could be introducing two incredibly healthy traits to each other of a deer that could be like a super deer. But if you have a fenced in area, it happens all the time in fencing operations, high fence operations, when those gene pools are getting very shallow, that's when you start getting some of this off color of piebald deer and or white deer. And so, I'm not here to tell anybody spiritually or for luck or bad luck or good luck of killing a white deer or hunting a white deer. But I mean, why wouldn't we have something still left and pure in the world? So I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody saying, hey, let's leave these white deer alone. Are they good for the herd? No, they're not good for the herd. They have worse genetics than a deer that's not white. That's just proven. That's just science. But so on that front, no, they're not good to keep living to populate into the world. But I think it would be cool for my nephews or your kids to see a white deer once.
That'd be fun.
It's like a unicorn. You don't see them very often, So I know it's really cool to see a black squirrel or a white squirrel, something always off. Like I think those things are good in the world. And so as far as something happy, let's have something happy, which is if I saw a white deer, it's happy. I was just watching Dexter last night and they killed this white buck. And then during the scene, after they killed this white buck, somebody had flipped the antlers backwards on the deer, on the carcass that they were moving, and I was like, come on, Hollywood.
Then you could tell, like, wait, that's not right.
It's not even right from earlier. Like, and so white deer, I've killed one. My buddy Randy Gaskins in North Carolina, shout out Randy. Randy Gaskins swears that us shooting white bucks, him shooting a white deer and me shooting a white deer, because he did years ago, he is very superstitious. He swears that bad luck comes from us shooting these white deer, and I just don't believe that.
What's the movie where he said, I'm not superstitious, or maybe it's a show, I'm just a little stitious?
I don't know. I may be a little stitious, but Randy is very superstitious.
Yeah, he is.
But he swears bad luck comes later on from shooting a white deer.
It's from The Office or so. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Just a little stitious.
Just a little stitious.
So that's the white deer story. Like, it's not going to affect your herd. And yes, people probably blow it out of proportion, but the Easter Bunny's blown out of proportion too. So
sure,
we got to have fun things in this world.
Speaking of like mythical type thing, I mean, okay, so this is the Christmas episode. Yep. Santa has his reindeer, but we don't. I mean, obviously, it's all what it is, right? But if we were to guess, which of the reindeer do you think would be the biggest buck? So you got Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Donner.
I think it's always
Cupid.
been Blitzen.
Blitzen? Why do you think Blitzen?
I don't know. He just sounds like a bad dude.
Yeah, I mean,
old Blitzen.
He sounds.
It's not Prancer.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably not.
Hey, Prancer.
Prancer, yeah.
I just don't see Prancer like
or Dancer probably.
Yeah,
Dancer and Prancer, they're probably not the.
They're definitely on Broadway somewhere, but Blitzen.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it like a football? Blitz is kind of like football, strong man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been pulled to Blitzen. What's another good one? I mean, what's another?
Well, there's Donner, which is close to Donger, which
might be another big one.
I mean,
those two would be, I think, who was leading the team.
Donner and Blitzen.
I think both of them are leading the team.
We know that Rudolph's he's the little guy with just the red nose.
He doesn't get to play any reindeer games.
Yeah.
He would be the white one. They wouldn't.
Maybe he's just got red eyes and not a red nose. He's the white deer. All right, I think we're bringing it full circle. So I know you wanted to listen to the call from Chris.
Yeah,
and we'll do.
He's got a genetic question about does. He told me. So normally I don't. These aren't preempted, but I talked to Chris this morning. He said, "Man, and he gave me that confidence boost to be vulnerable and talk about it." And he was telling me that one of his questions was about does. So go ahead and shoot.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I normally screen all the calls. I have not heard all this either. So this will be an adventure for both of us.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. This is Chris from Michigan. Before I give you my questions that I'd like some help with, I wanted to give your listeners a little bit of a testimonial for all the listeners that have property, that are property owners like me. I'll just give you a little quick history, I purchased 80 acres in Schuyler County, Illinois, 3 years ago, and my property had been outfitted, so it was pretty lean on big bucks, and they really thinned out the deer herd. And so the first couple years, I tried to hunt it my way, and just really wasn't seeing anything decent. So I decided I was going to hire a land management person, and a mutual friend of mine and Chris Brackett hooked us up. And so I hired Chris Brackett to come out and help me with my property. I first went to one of his farms. He showed me how he sets up his farms, and he spent the day on my place. It's a menu. Walked my whole place, and just it was amazing, the ideas that he had, and kind of humbled me because I'm 61 years old. I've been chasing whitetails since I was 8 years old with my father, and just kind of, one of those crazy whitetail guys. I don't hunt anything else. I just hunt whitetails all year long, and I'm sure many of you listeners are like me. It just kind of gets in your blood and makes you crazy. But and when I meet people throughout the year that I find out are hunters, I always ask them if they know Chris Brackett, and if they don't, I definitely steer them to his site. And the way I refer him is he's kind of like Fred Bear on steroids. Thought you'd all get a laugh out of that one.
He's a Michigan guy, but, Chris is.
Yeah.
So is Fred.
Not used to speaking like this, but anything else I could help you all with, you could always use me as a reference, but it was the best money I've ever invested into my property. And this was the first year. I met Chris in January this year. I'm only hunting about 10 acres of my 80. And the 50 tree stands that are on there don't get hunted anymore. We only hunt, a few stands on the kill plots. And I'm sure if you've been listening to Chris's show, you probably already understand how he hunts his farms. But a couple of the questions that I have, Chris, so if you've got a booner buck on one of your farms and he's breeding these does, I've always heard that when the doe has the buck fawn, mama will drive that fawn out of the area. So, we've always thought, I just wondered how that genetics works.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
It's hard for me to ask this question,
the bucks
but
leave.
I think you can probably follow me. So if you've got a giant buck living on your place and he breeds these does, then that genetics is going to go someplace else, a mile or two over. Is that how that works?
Yep.
And then my second question is, if you've got a 2-year-old 8-pointer on your farm, what's the chances of that buck ever blowing up to a 10-pointer or a really good shooter, a 160, 170? Or is it always going to be an 8-pointer? And are those the ones that you should take out of your herd if you want to shoot a younger or a lesser buck? So those are my questions.
Thanks, Chris.
It's been a blessing to get to know you and your wife, Jody. And I appreciate everything you do.
He likes Jody better than me.
I probably drive you crazy.
Like everybody.
You've been a coach. I lean on you all year long. You help me with all my food plots, how to plant them. I just can't say enough. And it's just been a true pleasure to get to know you and your wife, and look forward to getting to know you better in the future.
Yeah.
Have a Merry Christmas and healthy and a Happy New Year. Take care.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Well, I'm glad we played that in entirety. I like to slow that down. I really, that's what I was looking for from Chris, is just I was pushing him to just call in. He's been wanting to call in all year. We're not spring chickens anymore. So, Chris is, at that place where he runs a great business, and he really loves his off time. And so for his farm being 80 acres, it's very strategic in how we placed, where we placed the food, and again, the miscanthus and the switchgrass and how to, invade at certain times of the year and whatever. The results he's going to have over the years and the beauty and the aesthetics that goes along with it are just mind-blowing. We've got plans to even put in a pond, and it's the number one thing that I love, which is clients becoming friends. Very hard to make a friend into a client, but clients into friends, that's pretty much goes hand in hand because you're hiring them for a reason. You have liked interests, and that's what we have here. So first question is the does with the bucks, right? So the does, let's say they have two little fawns, two little twins, and they're both little button-head bucks. So they got Bambi, right? Running around, and his mom's sitting there, and their mom is used to going to this timber and coming out to eat at this clover and this food plot, and she stays there, and then when the big buck that is pursuing her to breed with her, or the bucks, when they get really wound up and they start fighting and start chasing, do you know that the does push away their fawns? Only the bucks. The little doe fawns, he looks at that as in a couple more months she's going to be able to be bred. I don't know if most people know that the fawns also get bred before they're a year old. That's why if we have good years with the right weather, we can have a population boom because those fawns will get bred into January and March, January, February, March. And so a lot of times the bucks will allow the doe fawns to hang out with the mom because they're not mad at the other fawns because they may get to breed them too. In the animal world, that's fine. But where they don't want competition from those little testosterone-filled little button bucks, because they actually rub off the velvet on their little buttons on their heads when they start to grow antlers. And these are only a half-year-old to three-quarter-year-old. So here's the theory behind this. We've talked about it before. The does carry most of the big buck genetics. Remember? We're talking about how the does carry the genetics.
So even if there's a giant buck, it's more the doe that he came from.
100%.
Yeah.
So we've got to remember that. So when we talk about does, we talked about bucks. We had a million questions on when do we shoot does because we don't want to take out the genetics. Well, the does carry the main part of the genetics. And even if the little bucks leave, here's what happens in my brain. I am trying to populate my area with the best genetics. And the only way that you're ever really able to cull, C-U-L-L, a buck out of the herd to make the herd better is if you only have, let's say, an extra room for one of your friends, or, let's say you can only house 4 bucks on your property that are 4 years old, that are about ready to be giants, okay? That's the problem I have right now is I have 4 to 6 bucks on my property that are 4 years old. And I have 3 of those that are 8-pointers, and I have, well, what I say, 5? Let's make it easy. Let's just do 5. So 3 of those bucks out of the 5 are 8-point framed, just nice deer that'll probably never be a super scoring animal. 8-pointers. Probably always going to be an 8 or a 9 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10, but never have the potential of a 4-year-old with superstar genetics that has 10 points and longer main beams and junk. And I am going to go ahead and say, all right, nephews, all right, Chris, let's go out and kill one of these 4-year-olds or 2 of these 4-year-olds, because we know for a fact that when they turn 5 years old, that those 4-year-olds aren't all going to stay on the farm. So if we're managing as hard as I do when consulting, that I know I have the food and I have the preferred bedding and I have the preferred farm, I'm going to say, okay, 2 of you guys are evicted and you're out of here. So Don Higgins has always talked about it. But you take out that bottom echelon of 8-pointers, which answers kind of both these questions, is you can take out that bottom echelon of that age class, and you're going to help your herd, but it's definitely not the word culling, culling. Like culling bucks, unless you're managing thousands and thousands of acres and you can tell which does have the genetics, you're not going to be able to really do anything, but you can do what they do in Texas, which is like, they have a fenced in area that you're hunting high fence in Texas most of the time, even without people really knowing it. And you're saying, I can only feed so many people here. I'm going to get rid of, I can only feed so many of these cows. I'm going to go ahead and take out half the herd of the inferior or minority type, genetics and leave the bigger ones to grow. So the 8-pointer wise, there's nothing wrong with a great 8-point deer. Yes, he can grow into bigger than 8 points. Once an 8-point, not always an 8-point. Don't think that. They can throw a G4, they can split. But in Texas, when you're managing in Texas, if he has an 8-point frame, he's management. Even if he's got kickers and stickers and all this stuff, if he's 8 points, he's got to go. So I think we get conflicted when we think like an 8-point deer isn't great. But what's happening a lot of times is somebody will shoot a 3.5-year-old 10-point over a 5.5-year-old 8-point. And so in my brain, age over beauty, and I'm going to look at the age class, but I'm also going to try to get age and beauty because I'm only allowed 2 deer in Illinois. So when the does kick their fawns off, they kick the bucks off, and I'm a bigger fan of creating the best habitat I can have, because once that deer gets old enough, that deer is going to be the one that comes back home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They kick them away, but if you have the preferred food source and bedding and everything, those bucks return home. Because the lifespan of a deer is only 2.5 to 3.5 years old. So if you look at it that way, it's like the only reason they kick them away that first year is so they don't breed with their mother. So by the time that deer is the big boy on the block at 5.5, its mom's probably dead anyways. So it'll come back and take over the best area by being the most dominant buck. So just hopefully you have confidence in your neighbors, or have a big enough farm that you can control more area. But if you can't, I don't think it's the part to worry about. I think the part to worry about is if you have 5 deer that are 4 years old on 100 acres, there's only going to be 2 of them that live there when they're 5. So go ahead, and if you're going to shoot a deer and enjoy it, make sure you're shooting an 8-point or a 7-point at like 4 years old. At 2 and 3, you can't really tell how they're going to be or what they're going to be. So it's just a lot of that comes down to a conversation and your rules. But don't let everything be as strict as like what you think, legalized. Don't make it so legalistic to where you're like, well, if it's 8-point, I'm killing it. It'll never be bigger. Some of the greatest deer I've ever hunted have been big, beautiful 8-pointers with flyers and kickers and all this stuff. So nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, so you had one client that's become a friend. We kind of have a similar situation. Kirk called. So why don't we take a listen?
Hey, buddy. This is Kirk. I was sitting here listening to your latest episode, and I know you didn't ask for this, but just thought I'd call in and let you know that I appreciate your show. And as somebody that hunts with you, I was just thinking, I just think there's a lot of people that don't know a lot about you, and maybe some things you could talk about sometime is, all the funny things that we get into with non-noisy clothes and not washing our clothes for, years on end and those things. And, anybody that's listening, I've been hunting with Chris for 5 years now, and thought I was a good hunter before I learned to know him, and realized very quickly that, there was a lot I didn't know, and he has completely changed the way I hunt. And he's been a consultant on 3 of my farms, set those things up in ways that I would have never thought of doing, and making those deer walk where we want them to walk. And anybody that might be considering having you come for a consultation from a client that actually had you do that, just a good word to say, hey, the money spent is well worth it. Knowledge that Chris will have and can give you and provide you is priceless, honestly. And I just want to let you know I appreciate you, buddy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Definitely a Christmas present, hearing all the
That's
success
really nice.
stories and
Yeah.
the nice things people say. Kirk has been blessed to be able to pull the trigger and see some of the biggest deer on the planet. He was able to get close to Wolverine and get to encounter him and get a shot off. And, so he's been able to chase some of the biggest deer on the planet. When we first had his farm, I told you he wasn't able to hunt this 160, being that he didn't live close. He traveled in, like a lot of people traveling into state, and he needed to just realize and decide really early in our relationship, like, is this farm good for me to come in, invade, and hunt it for 10 days and go back to Pennsylvania? Or, like, do I need a couple smaller pieces to hunt so I have more versatility while I'm here and I don't blow out my area? So I think a lot of people want to hunt a big giant property, but it's not always the best for somebody coming in from out of town. It's better to hunt a couple pieces that you can kind of get into different deer herds to be able to experience more sometimes. Then have one big piece. And I think your wants change. And a lot of times that's what our conversations, whether it's an online consult or boots on the ground, is your thoughts change about what you're after as a hunter, as a goal, as a trophy hunter, or what you want to experience. Sometimes it's not about the big giant property. Sometimes it's about having two different ones and then being able to switch back and forth, one more ag, one more timber, and your wants change. Just like when it comes to our prayer life, sometimes our prayers change rather than our wants. Like we pray for this, and it's like, God, change my heart if this isn't what we want. And then all of a sudden you're praying for something different because you've been enlightened. And I think that's part of just the wisdom that comes from experiencing and talking to a consultant, whether it be like a consultant with your soul or the pastor, leading you and men leading you in your groups, or even when it comes to deer hunting. I've been through it. I've been all over. Montana might be better for you to go experience in September and hunt early deer, or maybe it's Ohio and it's more you and your, over a corn pile and being able to hunt with a crossbow, or it's Illinois and you're hunting ditches and you got to, hunt toward the 16th or look at the full moons. It's one of the hardest places to hunt and kill a big mature deer, but we have them. And so a lot of it is fine-tuning what you want. And the funny stories that Kirk has is what he's referring to is, I'll play that wind, man. I do not go into these areas. So my clothing, I put them outside in the fresh air, and I rely on that fresh air. I don't cook stinky stuff and oily, fried foods in my house while it's deer season. I just don't do any of these weird things where the smell is stuck in my hair and on my skin. I eat really pretty, clean as far as smelly foods in deer season. And I don't wash my clothes a lot of times. I just play the wind, and I keep my boots, dry, and I keep that scent off of there from having bacteria. I don't call a lot, so I try not to get the deer behind me. And so he jokes around a lot of times, is like, I can't believe that you don't. I would have thought you would have been this scent freak of scent control and all this. And I'm just like, nah, I play the wind. Like, they won't win if we play the wind and we stay on the outsides and we pick at them. And, and so those are all the funny little nuances.
Well, we had talked before about, like, we had joked on one of the episodes about, like, swishy pants. And
Yep.
Not wearing anything
Puffy
that's noisy.
jackets.
Yeah, like, you're walking through the woods.
Like, it freaks me out even off season. You won't find me with a lot of noisy clothing. Like, puffy down jackets or swishy pants or squeaky shoes, it freaks me out because I'm paying attention to it 90 to 100 days out of the year while I'm in the woods. And my friend, Kirk's really good friend Joe, is like, now he jokes about it, but he'll show up in the noisiest clothes at deer camp to freak me out. And I'm like, you can't wear
He's wearing
those.
like pleather pants. Like,
Yeah, anything that squeaks. And so that's what he's talking about loud clothing. I went to the store the other day. I was at an Academy Sports, and I was like, I wonder if they have any like old style, bib overalls that are like made out of cotton, but they're heavy. And I'm like, I could wear those to the blind. There was not a pair of bib overalls that for warmth that did not make crap tons of noise.
Yeah.
And I was having going like, do
shiny
these
material?
Yeah, I'm like, do these hunters not do these? I don't think these designers make stuff with that in mind.
Yeah.
But I think there's some Osseo camo, and I know ScentLock still makes stuff because I beat it in Greg before Pat in their heads of how important it was to be deadly, silent, deadly material.
Oh, okay. You said silent but deadly.
Silent but deadly.
Material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I beat it in their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it, ScentLock made all this stuff that had carbon in them and activated charcoal and stuff. And a lot of times early season when I was hunting September, I would activate that and do that and take care of that. But there was a lot of times where it was just mainly about how quiet it was and then just the comfort and the fit of the clothing. So I don't know, maybe Pat will call and, support us on our new endeavor for the show. That would be cool. Shout out to Pat. He's in Missouri. He just asked where I was hunting the other day, but he's one of the owners, him and his dad and the other guys. Like, I've been friends with them a long time. I'd love them to jump in and support us. So he called me the other day and told me he wanted me to test out a jacket, so hopefully it's not noisy.
Yeah. Maybe it's a starter jacket.
That would be ironic. Yeah, we should bring back camouflage starter jackets.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That are somehow silent. I don't know how we do it, but...
Oh, you can make them out of...
We can
make them out of micro fleece.
Yeah.
It would be baller, dude.
Well, and I've got like a lot of denim that's got, well, not a lot, but I have some denim that
Canadian
has like...
tuxedos?
Well, yeah, I do, man. I should have worn that for this. Maybe for the New Year's episode.
You just go full denim.
Yeah, but no, that are like wool lined in the inside.
Oh,
like, that stuff isn't loud and it's super warm.
Yep.
Like, so I've got like...
Well, that's kind of like a broken Carhartt. Like, you can't beat the old duck brown Carhartts with the wool liner, and those are some of the warmest. But they're, you just got to, when you walk in those bibs, it's still, sure. I can't sneak up in the cornfield to get to the blind in that.
You like go run and we just hear,
yeah, it catches on fire. I run so fast.
That is what I think whenever I see you move.
You'd be like,
oh,
dude,
man,
if he took off running,
fast.
those Carhartts, he'd catch on fire.
Yeah.
Do we got a call from Brandon? He said he called. This would be a Friends episode, a Friends Christmas.
Yeah, it's kind of like Friendsgiving. Yeah, we can check out what Brandon had to say.
Tennessee,
hey,
Brandon.
Chris, Brandon, in Tennessee. What's up, buddy?
Shoot ducks with them.
Hey, man, you come back to my place and did a consult back early spring, and we kind of put a plan together and a vision for my farm.
Tennessee.
And right now, that vision has started. You can see it coming true. You wanted me to add a bunch of switchgrass, so that's my question. Is right now, say early August and September, all these 3.5, 4.5, 5.5-year-old deer are eating on me, eating October Magic, eating all the sorghum. And then it seems like come November, they kind of disappear to my neighbors and living on them. So my question is, with all the switchgrass that we've added, these young bucks I'm seeing, say the 1.5, 2.5-year-old deer, will they tend to stay on my property now and live there since I'm giving them more cover and more food? I just like to, man, appreciate everything you're doing. Thanks for all the free knowledge you're giving. God bless, and go Vols. Thanks again.
When I stay at his house, he's got a room that's that orange, bro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Tennessee, everything.
Yeah.
And so he's got me into a little bit of watching college sports, but I'm not full blown in it yet.
You're volunteering your advice, right?
He is a super fan, which is fun. My buddy Travis Mullins is also Tennessee. I like Tennessee orange. I got some buddies down there that just freaked out. The Bart and his brother just went like roll tide, like they're all from Alabama and they're whatever. I could start a battle. I should probably stay neutral. Yeah, I should probably stay neutral, but
I'm
like orange.
I do love Tennessee though.
I do love Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yep. So what he's talking about, dude, is we went up into these tops, up into these ravines, started setting up sanctuary kind of areas. You know me, like I like the deer to go back to feel safe and then come out where I can, battle them, right? What do they call the field? Tennessee Field?
Oh, where they play?
It's not the Valley of Death, is it?
I'll look it up. You keep talking. Okay. I'll find it for you.
So I create these little sanctuaries and then I bring them out. And then so what we added was, a lot of people ask questions down south like, can I grow your switchgrass? I'm like, listen, you don't have to grow this monoculture, but if you can picture these Tennessee ravines and then having some flats on top or whatever, and maybe you don't get a lot of rain on those tops because they're real dry and it's real rocky. We successfully, through giving Brandon the kind of the 411, my Buck Bible, where I coach him through the year on how to plant things and stuff. What we did, man, was we drilled some and threw some down, but it was mainly about chemical control. We got switchgrass to grow in all these nooks and crannies and on the edge of these pieces of woods that these deer are just piling into. He's watching his bigger deer that, just like my farm 7-8 years ago, these deer were trained already in their brain from their moms and from running wild, that they just went from farm to farm. And he's a little discouraged because some of these bigger deer have got killed because they're travelers. But what he is watching is he's watching these deer that are eating up his food and his sorghum and all these things that we've got planted. He's watching these younger deer, these 1.5-year-olds and 2.5-year-olds, even 3-year-olds that are really impressionable. They're still impressionable. And he's pressing into their brains the fact that his property is now the sanctuary and the preferred area for the girls to be, and now these bucks are hanging around going, this is pretty cool. You tell me I don't have to go to the other mountain. I don't have to go to the other mountain. I could just stay here and go from, little sanctuary to little sanctuary, and there's food on top. And so he's watching and making a very impressionable situation for these little bucks to grow up on his farm, and he's going to grow with no stress and no real pressure, and the food. Some of the biggest deer in that area are going to grow on his farm and never leave it because he's growing them right now. So that's it. We just want to continue our switchgrass and our TSI TSI cutting around and in around these bowls and these areas. And we just want to feed these deer, and these deer are going to start calling that place home. Never be scared on that first year that if some of your bigger deer that you've kept alive all summer leave and get killed, realize that that's not our long-term goal. Our long-term goal is that we're raising deer on the farm that call it home, that are going to get the extra birthdays, that are going to get bigger because they have the food and less stress, and they're going to be the biggest deer in the area, and you're going to kill them. You're going to go, this is awesome. But that's why we do short term to kill a nice buck, and then long term to grow these deer that have the better genetics, the better unstressful life, and they're the monsters, and they're yours, and they're on your own dirt, and they're special. What'd you find out?
Well, so it's the internet's an amazing thing, and I didn't find probably at all what you were looking, or what I was looking for, what we were asking you about. So I was like searching the name of the field, and then you had said something like
Death Valley.
Yeah. And so anyway, so then I'm typing that in, and it was like,
I think it's Alabama.
Well, so then it goes. The question was, a common search was, are there bodies buried beneath the stadium? And I was like, wait, what? So I was like, I got to find out more about this. And it was like, no, there aren't bodies underneath the stadium, but there are hundreds of skeletons.
Did you watch the movie Blindside? That's where it's from.
I did. I did. And but I was like, wait, what? And then I was like, yeah, but there are hundreds of skeletons that were once stored in the East Stadium Hall, which is it was on the east side of the stadium, and now they moved them in 2017. And I was like, wait, this took me down a totally different track. So I mean, there's a lot of information about dead bodies and/or skeletons around the stadium there in Tennessee, which is not really what you were asking.
No, no,
but interesting nonetheless. So Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, go Vols. I'm gonna go down there and shoot some ducks with Brandon. I can't even wait, but I got to get my deer dead first. So yeah, fun. You got one more for me?
Sure. I mean, we got plenty. You know, I think. Well, here. Yeah. Why don't you give us why don't you mention the white gold?
So we got white gold. So buy your white gold. I think there's a Christmas special going on. I mentioned it earlier. Clover Rush is my favorite. The switchgrass we were talking about in the backs, there's a switchgrass blend called Fort Knox, and you can get everything there. Your brassica blends, your clover blends. I've got one here called Gold Strike. It's got some alfalfa in it. Go check out white gold at brackettShow.com. Brackett, BRACKETT show.com.
And if you want to call in too, we haven't even mentioned it yet. So the landline.
Yeah, you could call into the landline 309-761-5263. That's where everybody's calling. And so you have the white gold, you got the Hunting Day coffee. Thank you for being a part of the show and making great coffee. And then you have the lowdown, which I give the lowdown in the middle of every show. The lowdown is a high-speed viewer for SD cards, and it's a way to save and flip through. And the lowdown is a high-speed trail camera viewer. You guys can check that out. All these links are at brackettshow.com. This one right here, if you're listening to this and you wanted to get a late season Christmas gift, even though this is Christmas Eve, your man's not going to be mad if it shows up a little bit late. He just doesn't want drama for Christmas, and he can get his present on New Year's. But this will be a good one for him to stick in his Polaris or in the truck. This is a way that I'm able to have my SD card. I'm able to stick it in to this tablet. If you're listening out there, it's a tablet with a pleather leather case, and you can put SD cards on the side and then a save card, and I'm able to tap the screen, hook it up with an HDMI cable up to my TV. I'm able to slip through there, save whatever buck pictures I need to, and I'm able to transport them to the saved card. And it's just an easier, better way for me to keep track of all my pictures. And you might say, Chris, well, I use cell cameras. I don't need to do that. Well, I can tell you this. While your cell camera is sending a picture, the other pictures are still being taken, and so you're not getting to see everything that camera is taken. And what I like to do is on my cellular cameras, I like to set it for a 3-picture burst. So it sends one as a thumbnail to my cell cam, but it also takes 2 others. So a lot of times when that buck is chasing that doe, it's going to still take pictures of them, and sometimes you get better angles and different angles. And so I'm going to go out on rainy days and really windy days, and I'm going to check my cards, and I'm going to walk around with that lowdown. I'm going to throw that card in there, download all the pictures, go on to the next, and I don't have to buy a bunch of cards. And it's a real good way to never miss pictures is to have this lowdown that you can download all your SD cards from your cell cameras to it, and then go check them out at home and go through that. Also, if you are out there and you kill a big buck, or you have a bobcat tag in Illinois, or if you have a coyote that you want to get mounted, or you just need a European mount for your deer, Cantrell Taxidermy in Springfield, Illinois. I will be taking my buck I killed this year down there for a Euro mount, and I've got a really good cape for another deer, and I've got some buddies that just shot a buck here this last weekend on the full moon. A lot of people going down there. My goal is he wants to see what 200 deer feel like. Like, he gets them back within a year, Chris, but his goal is to see what 200 deer feel like. And what that means is that his wife will be helping out, and he does really good quality work. Anymore with a taxidermist, you just want really good, solid work. You want it to look good. You want it to last. You want the ears to look nice, and, the eyes and the shading and good antler position. And I recommend Cantrell Taxidermy in Springfield, Illinois. Mike's a good guy, family guy, and he does is just quality work. So look him up, follow him on Facebook, give him a like on Instagram, and he's got some pretty cool caps. This is you see me wearing this all the time. I like that it's got a little, it's got a little class because it's written in cursive on my hat here, and it's got a little Illinois and a little buck. And shout out to them, Cantrell Taxidermy. Look them up. You can find them at brackettshow.com and reach out about consults or any questions that you have. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Chris Brackett's Land Life. Those are my pages. And do we have another question?
Yeah, I mean, we have so many different things that we could get into, but I was trying to think of a good way to kind of wrap things up. You mentioned white gold earlier. Here's someone who I think is going to give white gold a try.
What's up, Chris? This is Chase from West Virginia. I've been frost seeding here the last few years, and I'm going to give the white gold clover rush a chance this year because you've talked so highly about it. I was wondering if you've ever frost seeded the white gold strike product that is the alfalfa, clover, and chicory. I didn't know if it would be a good option or what your recommendation on that would be. So thank you. Yep.
Did he say he was from here? He sounds a little southern. Maybe Southern Illinois.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. There you go. West Virginia is going to be good because they do get cold, but they're a little warmer than us. The gold strike with the alfalfa in it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you've talked about that before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can frost seed that. Like my favorite is to take a clover rush and a gold strike, put them together. If you don't know what they are, here's this one for everybody watching. There's the clover rush and here's the gold strike. The gold strike is a little more drought tolerant, which might be good for different parts of West Virginia. It has alfalfa in it, right? So it's still got the same really good clover in it. You're still doing about if frost seeding, I like to put on a little heavy. So I'm 15 to 20 pounds to the acre. If I'm doing like a little half acre or a little quarter acre, I'm probably 2 bags. I will mix the clover rush with the gold strike. That gives me probably a ratio of 1 in 5 plants is alfalfa. And if you get a really hard drought, your alfalfa is going to survive more than your clover is. So if you think that you're in a drought area, or let's say a top area, like let's go back to Brandon's call. He's got an area up on top that's clover. His clover droughted out because they didn't get rain for like 45 days. But if he would have had more of an alfalfa blend and the alfalfa gets established, alfalfa will do a 7 to 10 foot taproot and it'll stay alive longer than a clover. Now up here where we frost easy, the alfalfa is the first to go, but your clover's beautiful till the end of December. So, you're good to go to frost seed that stuff. Every once in a while, you'll get a year that maybe freezes out a little bit early. The alfalfa doesn't frost seed as well as straight clover, just because it's a little different plant. It will germinate and it likes a little warmer germination period or temperament. And so you can do both. You're going to be good. I go for it. I'm good with frost seeding on alfalfa. A lot of people, what you can do is, let me work through this in my brain. You can wait a little longer. And put it down in like around turkey season and put it in there. And here's a secret. You don't need it to be frosty to frost seed. You just need it to be that kind of 55-ish degrees, a little sloppy mud and then dry out and a little sloppy frost, like dew in the morning. And that's enough to germinate this. So if you're scared at all about frost seeding, don't just do it too early. Frost seed that gold strike, that alfalfa, a little on the later side, early April, and you'll be money.
All right. Well, this has been the special Christmas episode and been able to talk about a lot of different stuff. Once again, thank you, everyone who's been supporting the show, who's been listening, who's been recommending it, sharing it. We really do appreciate it. Chris has mentioned it several times, but you can go to brackettshow.com. We also still, we love getting your calls, so you can call the landline, which is 309-761-5263. But Chris, also, thank you. It's been fun being able to do this, and as we kind of share things that we're thankful for this time of year, I'm thankful for getting to know you better and being able to do this together and help others. So.
I feel like my Christmas gift is everybody being nice to me today. I'll take that. It's going to be a little hard Christmas, missing Mom a little bit, but, having new friends like you and thinking about your kids and how much fun they're going to have. How is Christmas going to go for you guys? You traveling at all or anything?
We'll mostly be around here because, family, I have other family outside of the area, but most everyone's coming here. We might go up to Chicago. That's where I'm originally from. But for the most part, we'll be here. And we have some different traditions. And we host a big Christmas brunch every year.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. So everyone will kind of come to us and I'll do a lot of preparing of food and stuff. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, we've done a few different things, but they're at the age where Christmas is magical to them.
Yep.
So they're especially our youngest, he just turned 5, and so he now
he's jacked a bit.
He is, and he has a memory of Christmas in the past. When you're younger, it's kind of everything's a first, and so now he's oh yeah, Christmas is coming. So they've been opening they got this advent calendar thing that's a Lego, it's a little Lego set every day. So they've been making these little, and then at the end of it, it's a whole village, a Christmas village. So they run to the advent calendar every morning, and stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun. So
when do my youngest nephew, which is my big nephew, he's grown like a weed, the one that loves sushi, Trip. He is Mr. Holidays. He is Mr. Christmas. For his birthday in November, we got him a Christmas tree, and he has, my sister said, he has not shut it off since then, since November 18th. And so my other one, he's real chill. He's, I think, making homemade Christmas presents. I think he learned how to crochet like grandma. And been taking his time. He likes learning stuff. He's very engineering and, figuring out how stuff works. And I think he's been doing some of that. We'll look forward to just spending time with them. Jody's mom, prayers for her. She is going through health stuff. And so we just asked for prayers for that. If anybody wants to give us a Christmas present, we'll take all the prayers for Pat Barnes and my wife as she's the last mom, for me, and I got my aunt, and so it's hard, it's heavy on our hearts to take care of our moms and our aunts and stuff. And I haven't spent enough time with my aunt. She's had her knees done, so I'm going to just try to spend time with my aunt and my Aunt Sis, or whoever wants to see me, I'm in to go spend time with them and take them food. But it'll probably be pretty chill. I'll probably be wishing for some ice fishing for Christmas and a big buck, because if I get ice, I get cold, I get my big buck killed over my beans, and I'll probably get to catch some of my trout through the ice. Those are what I'm wishing for Christmas, and just everybody healthy. And my last little lowdown here at the end is I have bucks dropping antlers early, so pray for those bucks that aren't healthy. They're dropping antlers. Some of them, because they survived DHD and they went into the year in rough shape, and it's showing now, they're dropping their antlers early. A lot of times when they drop antlers early, a lot of it is just they don't want to fight anymore. They want to concentrate on putting good weight on and getting healthy. And so not always do you have to shoot those bucks that don't have antlers. And if you're going out doe hunting with all these doe seasons, the DNR is not your friend when it comes to these doe seasons. Make sure you pull out your binoculars, and if it looks like the biggest doe you've ever seen in your life, I'm going to let you know right now, it's not a doe, it's a buck. Don't shoot it. It's already dropped its antlers. I'm getting reports all over Wisconsin and all over Michigan of all kinds of bucks dropping their antlers. I have personally seen one on my farm. He's hurting pretty bad. He's really skinny. I think he survived EHD. He's got a hurt foot. He's dropped his antlers. And then I have other ones that are super hefty and full and fat and whatever. Now, for me, I'm going to talk about on next episode here why my friends have thought, since the deer have survived the Orange Army firearm seasons, why they wouldn't shoot a buck that is on their kill list or hunt list or hit list from early in the season, late in the season, because somehow they're like, well, they've made it halfway through the season, I'm not going to kill them now. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you rob yourself of an experience just because a deer survived the neighbors? Still doesn't mean that your buck can't can't outsmart them. I think that you're being a sissy and that you can't outsmart those deer. You should still stay to your plan. And if you get pickier late in the season, then you weren't picky enough at the early part of the season. I want to discuss that for New Year's, and it's go time for me. I'm going to talk on the New Year's episode how I don't give up, how I stay focused throughout the year, and how I know that the last 19 days in January are the best days on the planet to hunt white-tailed deer, and why I love it so much in super, super late season, because I'm a food plot man. It's what I do. It's what I live by, and that's the way we're going to end the Christmas edition. You guys, Merry Christmas. Ho,
Merry
ho,
Christmas,
ho.
everybody.
I hope
Yeah.
Santa brings you everything, and I hope that you can find a little time for your Savior and Lord, and if you don't know him, know that Jesus died for you on the cross, and what Christmas really is. Just take some time and figure out what Christmas really is about, and just say an extra prayer for those that are it's a hard time for a lot of people. Don't turn to the bottle. Don't turn to these things that you know are bad for you. Reach out to us if you have to. We'll be on Instagram and Facebook, and we'll talk you through it. I mean, you're not alone. We're not alone. This isn't our home either, so appreciate you, Chris. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.